for Labor spruiker Dee Madigan. Now, Madigan was the creative director for Labor's campaign in the last federal election. And last night she was on Q&A on the ABC and went the full hysteric on the Liberals' plans for nuclear power. And didn't the ABC audience love it?
There's been 36 accidents, I think, worldwide, and even the slightest raise in radiation means increase in miscarriage and stillbirth in childhood cancers. I certainly wouldn't want my kids living with one.
You just brought that up. Can you put some substance to that?
I did. That's literally...
Yeah, but what are you quoting there?
Literally science. But literally science.
No.
Oh, the science. Well, Madigan is in fact scientifically illiterate. I have no idea what this list of 36 accidents with nuclear power stations is that she mentioned, but the lists I see include accidents like rusted pipes or corrosions, usually things that hurt nobody. But yes, there were the two big ones, the disaster at Chernobyl in the old Soviet Union that killed about 50 people that we know of, and the Fukushima disaster caused by a massive earthquake and a tsunami that actually killed not one single person through any radiation leak, although the Japanese government, for almost certainly political reasons, did pay out a man who later died of lung cancer. But I said I had bad news for Madigan, who thinks it's so dangerous just to live near a nuclear power station. In fact, you get more radiation from a cuddle. The World Nuclear Association says sleeping next to someone gives us a much higher radiation dose than living close to the nuclear power station, both of which are harmless. In fact, America's National Institute for Occupational Health and Safety says aircrew, pilots and stewardesses and whatever, what are they called now, are exposed to more radiation in a year than workers actually in power plants. So if I were Madigan, I'd stop flying and cuddling if I was that scared of radiation. In fact, you should stop going on TV. TVs also emit radiation, so heaven knows how radioactive Madigan is, given she practically lives surrounded by TVs and plasma screens and all kinds of radiation-emitting stuff, which should tell her, actually, Dee, hello, a little radiation is natural and will not kill you at all. So quit it with your so-called science, your booger rants against nuclear. Joining me is Will Shackel, the founder of Nuclear for Australia. Will, good to see you again. Dee Madigan seems to me stuck in the 1980s before you were even born. There's no safe radiation in her world. Nuclear power is evil. What is it that she doesn't get?
Look, The Simpsons isn't science. And when you think of it in reality, you'd receive more radiation from eating one of these, a banana, than you would actually living outside a nuclear plant for an entire year. So I don't think cancer is caused by bananas, and cancer is not caused by living near a nuclear plant. Thousands of people live near nuclear plants around the world. So this is just blatant disinformation.
Oh, well, heaven forbid if she's eating a banana next to a TV screen in first class on Qantas, she'd be dead as a doornail by her reckoning. There's been a ferocious anti-nuclear campaign now for 50, 70 years. So far. In Australia, it's been political death for a long time to push nuclear power. What do you think has changed?
Look, I think people are waking up to the facts, such as the fact that you are exposed to less radiation from eating a banana than living near a nuclear plant. There are simple facts which prove that nuclear is reliable, that it is clean, that it is safe. And when people realise this, they are more likely to support nuclear energy. That is why a majority of Australians now support nuclear energy. That's why over 75,000 people have signed my petition to lift the ban on nuclear energy. There is no reason why we should be opposed to nuclear energy and be maintaining this hostile ban on it, except if we're believing the disinformation like was repeated many, many times on Q&A last evening.
Well, speaking of that, Will, you probably saw Labor Minister Tim Ayres also attacking nuclear power. Here he is.
I'm not as cavalier about nuclear safety and the safety of nuclear reactors as Barnaby is. One of the reasons that post the Fukushima disaster, the time scale that it's taken to build nuclear reactors overseas has blown out by decades, and the cost for each of these has blown out by tens of billions of dollars is countries attending to these safety issues.
Now, again, with that Fukushima beat up, but Will, Tim Ayres says there, the time frame for building a nuclear reactor has blown out by decades as a result. When I just read, what was it, last month? China has in fact just said it's going to build 11 more nuclear power plants in less than 5 years. Now, how long would it take us if we got serious, given that we're going from a standing start?
So probably not 5 years, but the best experts suggest it's anywhere between 10 and 15 years for Australia. Now, the UAE went from scratch to having nuclear in around 13 years. So this isn't unrealistic for Australia to say that we could build it in a good amount of time. The issue is going to be the political ambition. If we want to build nuclear plants in a short amount of time, it is realistic, it is possible. The only issue with the time for nuclear is really just political reasons, and hopefully we wouldn't fall into that mess in Australia.
Yes, and politicians mounting, and their spruikers mounting ludicrous scare campaigns that really should shame them. In fact, they shame the country, if you believe them. Will Shackel, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.